Jay here from Flipping Cars for Fun, and on this episode we have a 2010 Scion XD. Now I went through so much flipping this car. This episode is like a movie. I'm gonna take you through the full process of how we made over $2,000 on this car. You don't want to miss this episode, I'm telling you. Let's get into it. Okay guys, so we just took delivery of our Scion XD, okay, 2010. Now if you guys can see in the background from our last video, that's our Chevy Trax, and it came back from a customer. But it's a very simple fix, and we're gonna fix that as well. I'm gonna include that in the video. The car is already sold. We just need to fix a little part for them. You gotta take care of your customers. As a dealer in New York, you have to give them a 30-day warranty. That means whatever's wrong with the car during that 30 days, you have to take care of it. Sometimes I even go past the 30 days because I just want happy customers. Anyway, so let's go over this Scion. First off, guys, I'm extremely happy because I finally got a Toyota. Scion technically is a Toyota. It has a Toyota engine in it. Now, there are a few things wrong with this car, starting off with the rust right here, right on the bottom of the car. Now, that's on each side. You can see we have rust here. We're gonna have to sand this down and fix it. We also have the same problem right here, rust on this side as well. We're gonna have to sand that down and fix it. This side is a little worse. Now, one of the worst things with this car is we have a slanted in rear wheel. Now, when the wheel is slanted in like that, that's called camber, based off my research. Now, this can be anything, any of the suspension components making it cave in, but I wish I would have did a lot more research because I found out that the rear axle on this car is actually one piece, and even used, it's pretty expensive, and that explains why I probably got a good deal on this car. So we're gonna jack this thing up and see if it's the rear axle or a suspension component. I really am hoping it's just a suspension component because to change that rear one-piece axle, it's gonna take a lift. Unfortunately, I don't have my lift yet. That whole thing will have to be taken out and it would just be too much work to do on the floor. But other than that, the car is pretty clean. The inside is nice and clean. They always take the mats out of all the cars that I buy. I never understood that. I'm assuming there's value in used mats, obviously, because everybody takes them out. We also have a bit of chipping on the hood right here. Paint is like chipping, like from rock chips. The rest of the hood is pretty good. So we could just, when we paint the side railings on the car, we could pretty much just spot paint this area right here like we did on our Trax. So we'll go ahead and paint this as well and get it clean. Now, there was a code on the car when I purchased it. They said it was a cylinder 4 misfire, I believe. I didn't scan the car yet. We're gonna go over that. But as you can see, we have a nice Toyota engine in there. Really hard to get Toyotas, guys. And with that cylinder misfire, I'm guessing we could just change the spark plugs and the coil packs. We can start with that. And hopefully that's our problem. Let's scan this thing, see what's going on. Turn the key, enter, see what we got, guys. All right, so we got all of our monitors passed. So that's a good thing. Read the codes, pending codes. We have a cylinder 2 misfire detected, and we have a P0328 not combustion vibrating sensor 1 circuit high bank 1 or single sensor. Now, I don't know what that is. That's quite a surprise. They didn't show that at auction, but one could be causing the other. Quite a surprise to me. I've never dealt with anything like that before. I gotta do my research. Basically, before I buy the car, I look into it and see if that's something that I can fix. So that's brand new. Never heard of that before. Some of you guys out there probably heard of that before. So I guess I'm gonna be up all night for like 2 hours trying to figure it out. Hopefully it's easy. Let's check out that rear wheel. Now, I couldn't do my usual test drive like I do, bringing the car up to speed, but overall it felt good when I was driving it. The engine felt good, but there was a rubbing in the back, obviously, because the wheel is faced inward, so it's rubbing on something. So let's take this wheel off and see exactly what's going on over here. Tires still look good. I'm not sure how long this has been going on with this tire in like this. I wonder if they just traded it in as soon as they had this problem. I'm going to show you why I say that, because the tire is really good. It's still good. There's no, like, you would think there'll be a marking over here where like the tire's starting to get bald, and you can see the strut is still good. Just the plastic frame around it burnt out, but it didn't rub towards the shock itself. It still looks clean, so it didn't go that far. Let's see if we have a little bit of play, and we do have play right here. It's just moving like this, not making any noise, but it has like a more of a bounce to it, and I'm assuming maybe that's a bushing. Hopefully it's just that. I'm hoping that the frame is not broken. Anyway, let's lower this back down, take off the wheel, and take a closer look. Up off this hub. Got a nice spider hanging out in there. Look at that black spider hanging out in there. Check him out. Not gonna hurt this spider. Let's get him out of there. Lower this thing back down. Let's get off these bolts. Things are no joke. Especially with that lean angle, I'm assuming that that's contributing to it being so hard to take off. take a look at what's going on. Pretty rusty drum here. This is the whole frame. You can see it's not a separate axle, it's the whole frame. You can see it's connected. So hopefully this thing isn't broken. Let's take a closer look. It does look like it's broken here, guys, right here. So it looks like we need a whole new frame, guys, unfortunately. Let me get a little closer for you guys. Take a look at this area right here. Then I'm gonna push it, and you can see that that's moving. If I have to buy the whole frame, the used frame is about $400 to $500, maybe $600, which is crazy. And I'm sure they knew that when they sold it to me. That's why they sold it for a little cheaper than it was supposed to be. It just sucks sometimes because I can tell you without a shadow of a doubt that these dealers know what they're doing when they're selling these cars wholesale. In fact, this car came from a Toyota dealer. So they knew what they were doing when they sold this to me because they knew the exact problem. Again, I don't deal with small dealers. I don't buy wholesale cars from small dealers. I only buy from big dealers. So unfortunately, this is how it is in the industry. This is just one of those things that you got to deal with and you have to be prepared for it. So I'm not going to count it out yet. We're going to go over it. I'm going to stay positive as always. We're going to make numbers on this car. We're going to do it, but I just want to show you guys the dark side of buying from an auction and how you have to be prepared. Here at the office on eBay, realizing that you can't touch one of these things for less than about $500. This is without even shipping, $469. You got $599 with free shipping. That's $600. So it's tough to find it on eBay. Usually my go-to spot, so I don't have to go searching all over the place. But it looks like we're gonna have to go to a junkyard. So right now I have a list of salvage auto parts. I'm gonna start making phone calls right now. You know, I'm looking for a rear beam axle for a 2010 Scion XD.
Yeah, we do have it. It's $500.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
I'll give you guys a call back.
Okay, no problem.
All right, guys, that's $500 for that one. I've been calling a couple different places, been getting the same quote anywhere from $500 to $600. Let's give a couple more calls out and see if we can find this.
How you put it, Savage?
Scion XD.
1 second, please.
Yep, no problem. Let's hope they got it, guys. Come on.
Best I could do is $650.
$650?
Yes.
Yeah, these things are expensive. Why is that? You know why?
It's a very common part, buddy. Very rare.
All right.
Common. A lot of people need it.
All right, yeah. Thanks a lot. Buddy. He calls me buddy. These salvage yards are crazy. I need a rear beam axle for it.
All right, give me 1 second, please.
No problem. Got me on hold, guys. Hello?
Okay, it's $250.
$250, okay. All right, that's really good. Can I give you guys my credit card number, please, so you can hold it for me?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, it's 4563. Okay, thank you. I'll be there in maybe like an hour or so.
Okay, see you here.
Thank you. Yes, yes, we got it, guys. We got it. $250, guys. $250 for the part, guys. You must have called like 10, 15 people. We got it. All right, so we got our part. Came with the drums and everything. Not bad. Okay guys, today's the day. We got our used axle beam. I picked up some jack stands from Harbor Freight. I needed some bigger ones. We got our jack and I'm going to attempt to remove this thing by myself. I might have some help coming through today, hopefully. Once I get this thing off, probably gonna need some help leveling this thing before we bolt it in. But if I don't get any help, I guess I'm on my own, guys, but let's get this done. Let's go. For everybody who says, I want to get started, but I don't know how to fix cars and stuff like that, I just want to tell you, I have no idea what I'm doing right now. I'm just going to attempt to do it, and it is what it is. You got to take chances. And I guess you got to want to do it as well. You got to want to do it. Either that, or you find like a nice team of mechanics that'll give you a good price and factor that into your cost. Look how high we got the car so far. It's pretty high up in the air. We got our jack stands in place. Extremely hot out here. Might have to put the tent up because it's too hot. Let's lower this car. Hopefully it falls properly on these jack stands. And now that the jack stands are in place and I know they're holding the car, I'm gonna put the jack back up there just for extra safety. I'm not gonna like lift it or anything like that. I'm just gonna put it there. And then when I remove all the screws and bolts, I know that the jack has it there and I can lower it down pretty slow. Now the good part about this one, it doesn't have a big differential in the back. It's just an axle. Let's give the car a bit of a shake. See if it moves. It's good, it's not rocking, so that's a good thing. Guys, when I tell you it's hot, it is hot out here. Trying to get my pool ready, drop the chlorine in there so I can't even jump in there today. And it's Memorial Day weekend. I got people coming over, so I might have some help. So what I'm gonna do here is basically PB blast every bolt that we have here, just in case it's too rusted on. I don't wanna break any bolts or anything like that. So I'm just gonna make sure everything is nice and sprayed down so we can take them off with ease. I also want to come to this one for reference on like where the bolts are at. I'm going to spray this one as well because I'm sure I'm going to have to take some stuff off of here as well. So I want to come to this one for reference of where all the stuff is at. Again, I don't even know what I'm doing. I'm freestyling here. I'm just letting the car talk to me. I'm seeing where everything is at and I'm just going to relocate it. It's kind of like taking things apart and putting them back together. Okay, from the looks of it, on this one, it looks like they just took out this bolt right here, which is this bolt right here. And it also looks like they just took out the shock that's right in between this bracket right here. And it looks like everything else drops. It looks like the springs are just sitting in there. There's our shock bolt. So from the looks of it, it looks like we only have 4 bolts, 2 on this side and 2 on this side, and then the whole thing should drop. So I'm gonna start unplugging the sensors and the wiring and stuff like that, and hopefully this thing drops down. Let's get this speed sensor out here. I'm almost sure that this is a speed sensor. So I'm trying to remove the speed sensor. I can't take it out from here. It looks like I have to go in the car to the paneling to remove this wire. Now you can see that speed sensor wiring goes up into the car behind the paneling right here. That just made things a little harder. We can get it done. Over here, see if we can pop this open. So it looks like this might be the wire right here, that white wire right there. I'm gonna pull on this wire and see if that one moves. Yep, it's moving. I think that's the wire. Not gonna be that hard. So it looks like this one's our wire. Let's disconnect it. Let's pull it out from below. We got the wire out. Take out the brake lines. All right, I got some help with me. He just, he pulled up. This guy's actually a mechanic. Quite yourself a mechanic or not?
A hobbyist.
A hobbyist? Okay.
It's my hobby.
I mean, you've been fixing cars since you was 12.
Yeah,
We got all the brakes out. Next thing to do is to remove the wheel bearing and the brake line. Okay, so we're about to remove our shock over here. So we have this bolt and this bolt. We got our wrench on here. This is gonna be the first piece to drop this whole rear axle beam. Let's go ahead and do the same thing on this side. So what we're doing here is taking this 14 millimeter open end, pushing it across, and then he's hitting it. And that allowed it to drop. So I'm gonna go ahead and hit this one right now. We're just hanging on one bolt over there. All right. So it's free right now. You want to jack it up a little bit? Oh. There's one spring. I'm going to break 2 springs. There she goes. Okay, so we got it done, guys. Yesterday was crazy. It pretty much was a long day because it was Memorial Day weekend and it was a lot of people over the house, which was good because I had tons of help. But because we stopped, we had some food, it took a lot longer. And as you can see from the video, it got dark outside. Anyway, check it out. So we got the rear axle on there. Now, one of the things that happened on this side is I had to change the wheel bearing from the old one to the used new one. But it was super hard to do because the old one was stuck on there and it was stuck on new axle beam as well. So I had to get that off. We had to hammer that off. But lucky I went ahead and tested out that wheel bearing. I felt it out to see how it felt. And on the new one, it felt rusty and it was making noise. I'm glad I checked that out before we went ahead and put everything back together. And there's our crack, guys. You can see we have a big crack all the way through here. So I'm assuming like this is where they usually crack at. You can see this one's starting to come apart as well, really rusty. Okay, as for the Chevy Trex, here's the part that we need to change. This is going to be a coolant temperature sensor. So after I sold the car, I got a phone call the next day saying that the check engine light came on. So I went ahead, looked up the code, and discovered that it was the coolant temperature sensor based off the code. Took the car back, brung it here, and I'm gonna go ahead and change this little piece. Now here's how the part looks. Very simple, very easy. It's gonna go into the engine block. Now there's two, there's one for the radiator. This code is calling for the engine block. So what we gotta do is take out the other one, put this one in, put the clip back on. Now here's where that coolant temperature sensor is located, right here. There's a metal clip on there, and there's also a wire right here. Should be fairly easy, should be an easy job. Just wanted to show you guys that this is part of the game. Now this one sold for $7,000, like I said in the video. So I'm not gonna take somebody's $7,000 and not fix the car. This piece was about 30 bucks. The bottom line is if you can fix a car for someone, it's a $30 part and you can do it yourself, or you can take it to somebody, even if it costs you 100 bucks to do, get it done. This way you can have referrals for the next customers. I'm starting to realize that sometimes when you fix something, it messes something else up. Now, if you guys remember our last video, we did the coil packs, spark plugs. We also did the valve cover gasket on here. We also did this part right here. I forget the name of it. And as I'm starting to fix cars, I'm starting to realize that one thing always leads to another. You know how sometimes you go to mechanics and you go to fix one thing and then you got to take it back and you're mad at the mechanic? I'm realizing all of this time it wasn't the mechanic's fault. It's just like that. For every action, there's a reaction, right? So when you change one thing, it kind of messes up the other thing that wasn't doing good. So if that makes sense. So let's take this clip out and get this part changed. There's our clip. I'm gonna grab it with this needle nose and pull it out. You wanna save that, you don't wanna lose that. We're gonna take out this center plug. So we got our plug out. Let's pull out the part. Now you're gonna lose a little bit of antifreeze because it's the coolant temperature sensor. So the antifreeze runs through that. So you're gonna lose a little bit when you take it out. Look at that. Let's hurry up and put the other part in because we are losing antifreeze. All right. Next thing we want to do to hold that in, which is probably the most difficult part, is putting this back in there. Not that difficult, but you got to push the sensor in and push this clip onto the sensor at the same time. Okay, so we got our new one in. You got to kind of like put two hands, push the clip, hold the sensor in and push the clip on top of it. You can see my arms got extremely dirty just trying to get in there, and like two hands down there at the same time and just squeeze in there. But we got it done, and I'll give it back to the customer tomorrow. She's happy that I'm actually taking care of it for her and not, you know, turning my back on her and stuff like that. And that's what a lot of dealers do, and that's why people hate dealers. And the irony of it is that I hate dealers as well. So I don't want to be that hated dealer. All right, so we got this fixed. Okay, let's go ahead and get these spark plugs and coil packs done, and hopefully we can get that code cleared. Hoping it does something for that NOx sensor, because I did the research on the NOx sensor. And to change the NOx sensor, you have to take this whole windshield wiper piece out, and you also got to remove the intake manifold. This cheap car turned out to be a lot of work, but I guess, you know, this is the game that we playing, and this is what it takes. Got our cover off. So the way they have this set up is like the coil packs are pretty much buried back here. Look, you barely got any space. So hopefully the bad spark plug or coil pack is setting off the NOx sensor. That's what I'm praying for. Worth a try. We're gonna remove these coil packs, change these spark plugs, reset it, ride it out. Hopefully that NOx sensor doesn't pop back up. Okay, so it is looking like I can't get this in because there's a metal framing right here and I can't get this in. So I'm gonna try with my shorter extension, see if I can put that on there and see if that gives it a little bit of a advantage without taking this out. So I'm gonna put my short one in there. It looks like if I drop it in there, it's gonna be stuck. Maybe I should get like another smaller extension and see if that would help it kind of be right there before it drops all in, because this could drop in without, you know, it'll just be in there and I gotta get a magnet or something to take it out. So I don't wanna drop this in there. It looks like it'll just go in. This one would have been perfect. I don't wanna remove this. Let me get a smaller extension to attach to this one. So what I did here was stack two extensions on top of each other, but I'm not sure because it almost equals out to the same size as the longer one, but that little inch or whatever it is, or a quarter inch, might help out. Try it out. Oh, same thing. Maybe I could put one in first and add the other one afterwards. Let's see, that went down. That's dangerous. There we go. Yep, that was it. All right, we got it in there. It's attached to it. as I'm in here, it looks like the spark plug itself wasn't even that tight. So that's kind of crazy. Let's see if it comes out. It just feels like there's nothing in here. It was just like loose already. So I'm just unscrewing it by hand. And let's see if that does anything. Hopefully we can get it out. See if we can pull it out. Take this extension off. Got nothing. I thought there was nothing there. I was like, wait, these guys are running the car with no spark plugs. But looking at the new ones, these are super slim and neither one of my spark plug sockets can grip onto it. So I have to go get a new spark plug remover. I'm gonna bring this spark plug with me. Apparently they make smaller ones and I've never dealt with spark plugs this tiny before. Take a look at that. So we got our new spark plug socket. It was a 9x16. We got it from AutoZone. Now for all you guys out there that don't have tools and you want to get started, this is exactly how I get my tools. This is so small, just a small piece. But what happens is every time I have a difficult job where I don't have the tool, I'd go ahead and go buy that one little piece. And now I have an extra spark plug socket that I would never have had if I didn't run into this problem. So the tools eventually build up over time, and that's exactly how you're gonna have a tool collection. Let's give it a pull. There we go. We got it. New coil packs, Amazon specials. Let's put in our scanner. Erase trouble codes, yes. Okay, trouble codes are erased. Start the car. And we basically just gotta ride it out, guys. We'll see if any codes pop up. Hopefully not. Well guys, 2 seconds of me starting the car and finishing off that part of the video. The code just popped back up. Check engine light came back on. And guess what code it is, guys? Knock sensor 1, circuit high bank 1. So that code is not going away. This car turned out to be a bigger project than I thought it would be. That's just one of those things we got to deal with, and you live and you learn. Anyway, we got to get to this body work. We'll order that knock sensor. We'll start our body work and get this car going. Just try our best to get it out of here as fast as possible. We're about to start on this body work. If you guys remember, we got a rusted panel here, and we got the same thing on the other side. Here's our driver's side, and here is our passenger side. A lot of these manufacturers, what they do is they put foam inside of the metal to make it more of a silent drive, and then that ends up rusting out the metal, and that happens a lot on the Jeep compasses and stuff like that. So the goal here is to use fiberglass. We're gonna sand down the area, get the rust all cleared out, and we're gonna use this fiberglass cloth along with some fiberglass resin, and we're gonna basically patch it up, and it's gonna be solid like a rock. Guys, these turn out to be a lot worse than I thought they were. So you can see this one is not as bad as the other side, but it's pretty much missing this whole area right here, but you still have some metal here. And this side is the worst because it's missing the whole bottom piece. Just got this part right here. So we will have to fiberglass all of this around here. What I'm gonna do here is grab our fiberglass cloth, and then I'm gonna cut to the size of the hole. Sad, I can't find any scissors, but I'm gonna go ahead and use these, and I'm just gonna cut a section across so we can cover this area. So I do think this should do it. So you can see we got the whole thing covered. We're gonna cut out this bottom area so we could just overlap. We're gonna do 2 pieces of those. We're gonna overlap 2 pieces so it could be strong. So now that we got our 1 piece, I'm gonna put it next to the sheet, and then I'm gonna trace it just to have 2 solid pieces. So now we have 2. Let's go ahead and do the same thing on this side. This side is going to require a tiny bit more, not too much. I'm going to measure it out. Now in a plastic cup, you take your fiberglass resin. You guys can get this anywhere, Home Depot, AutoZone, wherever it is. You're going to pour it into the plastic cup, a cup that you don't need. Now this stuff is strong and it gets hard pretty fast. So you got to work pretty quickly to get it done. So I'm going to put a little bit in there. Then you want to put your hardener in there. A few drops work. Read the instructions. I just kind of freestyle because I've been doing it so long. But it doesn't take a lot. Now you're gonna take a paintbrush and you're gonna mix it up, and you wanna work as fast as possible because it is going to get hard. Make sure you wear a mask, even glasses. The first thing you're gonna do is paint onto the sheet itself so it can stick. Wear some gloves. Then you're gonna paint onto the actual area where you're applying the fiberglass. Now you're gonna stick it on there. You're going to take your paintbrush with the fiberglass resin on it, and you're going to paint some more on top. Just dab it on there. Don't rub it. Dab it. Take your other piece and do the same thing. Paint on top of it. Same thing. I'll put it on top of the other one. Apply the resin. Tap it on there. Let's move to the other side. Same over here. Apply it to the area. Let's put it on there. Dab it up. Let's get the other one. Put the fiberglass on it. Stick it on there. kind of like a patch, as you can see. We got it nice and clean on this side. It's like we patched the hole. We're gonna come in with some Bondo and even everything out. Same thing over here on this side. Patched it all up. Now all these little strings hanging out and stuff like that, we can cut that off. It's gonna get solid like a rock, and then we can pretty much sand that down and shape it with our Bondo and just make it look good. You guys are not even gonna know the difference when you see this, I'm telling you guys. So what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna start working on this hood. You guys remember we had a bunch of pitting rock chips. So I'm just gonna sand them down as lightly as possible, not that bad. I'm gonna take a 320, a sanding block, and I'm just gonna hit the areas that have rock chips on them. And I'm gonna sand them down until the surface is smooth. I don't wanna feel any pitting in the paint. Okay, we hit it with our 320. Just gonna put some water on there, get all the dirt and dust off. We still got our rock chips. What we're gonna do is fill in those chips one by one. Now, if you take a closer look, you can see all the chips are leveled down a little bit. So we're gonna put some filler in each hole, and then we're gonna sand down each hole slowly with a 400. And we're gonna 400 this whole area right here. And then our paint is gonna go on top of that. And then our clear coat is gonna go on top of that. And then we're gonna blend it into the rest of the hood. And what we have here is glazing spot putty. I'm gonna hit every area with my fingertips. So every little hole is gonna be hit. So here's what we got. We filled in all of those chips with the spot putty. It looks a little weird right now. When I finish with it, it's gonna be nice and smooth. It's laid it a little bit harder just so I can have enough putty in there, because when you sand this one down, it melts away a lot faster than the regular Bondo. Okay, now that our fiberglass is all dried out, solid like a rock, nice and hard. Let's this side, and then here goes this side. On this side, I added like a little piece of cardboard right there and shaped into the back paneling over here. And I'm gonna add our new fiberglass on there, and I'm gonna fill that in. We're gonna hit it with a 320 in this area right here, just roughing it up so that the new fiberglass filler can stick to it. But the first thing we're gonna do is tape off the door right here, because we don't wanna hit the door by mistake. So here's what we have on this side. You can see it's sanded down pretty smooth. Piece of it cracked right here, but with the body filler, we can fill that in. It's gonna look good, guys. Let's do the same thing on the other side. So let's start cleaning this area. Make sure all the dust is off. For our fiberglass Bondo, we're gonna get a generous amount. Let's put our hardener in there. And just mix it up together. I'm gonna take a decent amount and spread it out on the area. So here's what we have on this side. I put extra clunk of it in the corner over there because we didn't have any edge over here. So here's this side, a little more smoother. We have more of a backing over here, which is solid. So while that's drying, I want to start getting this spot putty sanded down on the front of our hood. Okay, so here's what we got, guys. I told you it would look good. Each of the holes are filled in with our spot putty. We filled in every hole. We sanded it down. As you can see, they are all filled in, guys. Now, next thing we have to do is we're gonna have to prime this area. Okay, so we got a high build primer. Let's hit it. So what the filler primer is doing is evening out the areas where those little rock chips were. Because even though I put that spot putty in there, there's still a little bit of a hole, a slight hole from the filler to the paint. So what that primer filler is doing is it's filling up the rest of the hole so that when we do sand it down, it becomes one with the rest of the hood.
So at this point of the build, what we did was we went ahead and we sanded down that fiberglass Bondo that we applied. And the next thing we're going to do is do the same steps that we did with that fiberglass Bondo, except we're going to use regular Bondo, okay? And we're going to do the same thing. Now you can see the side of the car, the rocker panels are built up a lot more after we apply this Bondo. I'm going to do the same thing on this side. And what this is going to do is just make it nice and built out so that we can flatten it out some more. We're gonna sand this one by hand. We're not gonna use a machine like we did with the other one. So what we're doing here is just prepping our car for paint. We're sanding down that primer that we put on the hood, and we're doing it, we're wet sanding it. So we're using water and we're using the sandpaper. Okay, and this is what we have. We have a nice flat surface, no more rock chips. Okay, so now I'm doing this by hand like I said. I'm using a 320 and just going straight across and making sure that it's even. Take your time on these steps, guys. We want it to be as flat and as smooth as possible. The next thing we're gonna do here is apply some primer just like we did on the hood and make it look great. So I went ahead and put my wheel cover on, put some plastic on the car so we can cover that up so we won't get any overspray, okay? And I'm just prepping the whole car for paint because when I prime it like I'm doing right now, same thing we did with the hood, we're just gonna give it 2 coats, let it dry, and then we have to go ahead and paint right over that, guys. And that's about it. So I wet sanded this part, same thing we did with the hood. We let it dry for about, I want to say hour and a half, and we came back and wet sanded that part. Now you want it to be smooth, guys, just like the rest of the car. That's what you want it to feel like, okay?
So we're gonna start our paint. Unfortunately for this car, I couldn't find a Dupla color, which is like $15 a can. I had to go with a professional mix. I had to go to my local paint store, and we're using the Spray Max 1K base coat. Comes time to the clear coat. We're gonna use a 2K clear in the can. Now this is a professional clear. It has a hardener in it. If you guys haven't seen my other videos, you take this part right here, you put it at the bottom of the can, and you break it and shake it up, and that reacts to hardener in the can. And you want a professional clear because if you're using any of those cheap clears, it's gonna come right off and the paint's gonna look like crap. So let's get started. First coat. Now your first coat is going to be light, not too much, just a very light. It's not going to cover everything. The second coat is going to be a hard coat. And that's how it should look, a light coat. It shouldn't cover everything. Let's let that dry and let's do this side. Now for the hood, I'm only going to use my base coat on the areas that are gray. I'll show you. Okay, for our 2K clear, we're gonna take out that red part I showed you guys earlier, put it at the bottom, push it, hear that click, loosens up the hardener, shake it up. Very light coat, put on our mask. This stuff is strong, really strong. So it's looking good, guys, not bad at all. So I got my spot blender right here, another 1K product, Spray Max, and that's just gonna blend in the old clear with the new clear. I'm gonna make it match and like kind of blend together and mesh together. Pretty much kind of like melts it down into each other. So I'm gonna hit it on the top part of the hood. You can see that that part is shiny right there at the top. And we want to just blend it into like where the dry part is at, because that's kind of sanded a tiny bit. And there you have it, guys. Looking really clean and good. It's looking way better than it was. Okay, guys, last day here. Hopefully, gonna attempt to get this knock sensor done. So apparently, the knock sensor is easier than I thought. I kept doing my research online, and I kept hearing that the knock sensor is behind the engine. But I was looking at the Scion XB, B as in boy. This is the Scion XD, D as in dog. Here's the intake manifold, and the knock sensor is behind the intake manifold. But all the videos I was watching, the engine looked exactly the same, except it was reversed. The intake manifold was in the back. But as I started to look and research, I found that this one has the same engine as the Toyota Corolla. So I started looking up the Toyota Corolla because there are no videos on this particular car, the XD. And come to find out, we're good to go. The knock sensor is just behind here. So let's go ahead and take out this intake manifold. Let's get it going. Okay guys, so we got it out. Now you want to make sure that you don't get any dirt in here because that's dangerous. You don't want to get anything in there. You can see it's already dirt. So I'm going to go ahead and clean all that out and make sure when we put it back in, we don't get any dirt into the engine, okay? And there goes our knock sensor right here. So I'm going to spray that down, remove that, replace it. Then we're going to put everything back together. It's starting to get dark outside, so I got to hurry up and move fast. I'm going to take that knock sensor out right now. There's our old knock sensor. Okay guys, next day here. It got extremely dark outside and I figured let me wait until the sunlight comes out so I can put this thing back together. So this is what we have. We have our sensor, knock sensor in here as I showed you yesterday. And I'm glad I waited for the light because guys, I noticed that the cord that's connected to the knock sensor is broken. Now this could have been anything. So essentially nothing was wrong with the knock sensor. The cord was ripped. So I'm so glad that I waited for the daylight to come out so I can put this thing back together. Now I got to figure out how I'm going to connect the wire for that switch. This is crazy. I just discovered that coming outside when I was about to put it back together. I'm glad I looked. Just want to give you guys a closer look. You can see that this is ripped from here and this wire was connected to here, which is connected to the knock sensor. So it was connected on here. So it could have been anywhere wherever this person lived at. Maybe they lived in a city and there was probably a lot of mice, rats, or it could be anything, a raccoon, I don't know. Sometimes animals climb in the engine bay. You guys know that when it's cold outside and they probably actually just bit the wires, and that happens all the time. So I had to take it out anyway. I'm glad I changed the knock sensor because since we're in there, we might as well change the knock sensor, but it was the wire the whole time. So you can see the wire is pretty short. I gotta figure out how I'm gonna cut that without like making it too short, or else we're gonna be stuck. So I got my wire cutters. Okay guys, it looks like we did it. We got a small amount of wire right here, just enough, and we have a good amount of wire right here, so we're gonna wrap them together. Now what I am gonna use before I use my duct tape is one of these shrink wrap thingies you put on top of the cords. So I'm gonna cut a little piece of this, I'm gonna put it over the wire, and then I'm gonna heat shrink it on the wire, then tape it, because this is gonna keep it together a lot better. So I wrap the wire together and I put the tube over it, and now I'm gonna shrink wrap it. Everything is complete, guys. Let's get this car started. It's been a journey. We're gonna run out these codes. Now let's get to the numbers of this car, because I know you guys have all been waiting. Let's go.
Finally, guys, this Scion is gonna find a new home. So all in with shipping to my door, it came out to $1,915. We went ahead and bought spark plugs for $65 with coil packs. And then we got our rear axle beam for $250. We got our primer and fiberglass for $13. We got our paint for $43. We got our clear coat for $22. We got our knock sensor for $48. We went ahead and bought some mats from Amazon for $15. We went ahead and got a manifold gasket. I needed to change the gasket on that manifold. It was $8, and we got our car inspected for $50, bringing us to a grand total of $2,439. I went ahead and listed this car at $5,000. The least I would take is $4,900, bringing us to a grand total profit of $2,461, guys. Now, was this all worth it in the end? All of that work? At the end of the day, it wasn't, but it was, because it was an experience, guys. I got to learn something new. Each time that you're flipping a car, you're building character, you're building experience. So the more that you know, the more that you learn, whenever you get the new flip, it'll be easy for you to do, and you'll be able to point out what cars not to get based off the stuff that you've been through. So this was nothing but an experience. I'm gonna profit more in the future. I will talk to you guys soon. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks for watching.